Hey everyone, Sycra here, and welcome to another episode of Pointy Chins, where I share my journey in finding a style, and hopefully I can offer you some tips to aid you on your journey. So this episode is called Eureka, and it's because I finally find my shape language. And it all happened here, where I guess I had done these first, and I had drawn this figure, and then I had drawn this figure. I started noticing this pattern because, okay, so I have points, as you can see here. Very pointy chin, pointy hair, pointy ears. And so I was thinking like, okay, so the style is all about a triangle, and a triangle has points. And then I started looking at these shapes that I was doing over and over, and it's almost like you have a circle cut out of, or you cut a circle out of a shape. So imagine this was a rectangle and you cut out a circle. And I started seeing those more. Even in here, you see, there's these, and all these help into getting points. But it's not always in a triangle. And for instance, you could have a triangle like this, which is more puffy, and this is a much more convex shape. And then you could have a triangle like this, which is sort of in the middle, or you could have a shape like this, which is much more concave. And so I realized, oh, my shape isn't a triangle, it's a concave triangle, but the emphasis is on the concavity of it. And so I pushed it even further. And this was huge to me, because I was having trouble with the flour sack and with other shapes, and it's like, oh, okay, so, my shape is just concaves. Well, that's good, because I cannot tell you how happy I was when I found this. It was a huge relief. But at the same time, it was kind of scary because of this fact. There are no true concaves in the human body. It's all convexes. What looks like a concave, an area that goes in, like let's say this area on the human body, it's actually two convexes. It's the convex of the trapezius coming down like this, and the convex of the deltoid going this way, and then it gives the illusion of a concave. So because of that, because concaves don't really exist on the human body, unless you go to the skeleton, but even then, if you zoom in far enough, you'll see it's just any concave is usually made up of a bunch of convexes. Because of that, it makes it a bit more difficult to get shapes down, but still, this was a big help. So I took a teardrop type shape, and it's like, okay, so let's add convexes to it. And so here I'm just playing around. Here's some ellipses and some more shapes, really pushing the convex thing and seeing, okay, what's this like? It's almost like you found a new toy and now you want to play with it, or a new game or whatever it is. So okay, here I did an experiment where it's like, okay, draw more convex things and then push it to more convex, and how do you maintain the femininity? So here I felt like this became way too masculine, and so I pushed it this way and it became more feminine, but it started losing the convexes, or concaves, sorry. It has a lot of convexes, because it's very easy to do, or it's easier to do women when you have nice curves that are very smooth and flowing, but when everything becomes pointy, it becomes harder. Like, how do you maintain an appeal with all these shapes? And so I did this one, and it's like, yeah, that works. That to me is still cool. It's still feminine, but it's got a lot more points to it. So here's another experiment. I personally like this one better, but I've had people I talked to who said they preferred this one. And basically I did a face the way I would have done it without this idea of my style being concaves. And I pushed it to concaves, and I wanted to see, like, can I maintain it? What's it going to look like? Now, this isn't exactly the same, because if you look at this angle, it's different than this angle. So if I was to redo this, I think I could do a better job and get things closer to this. but it was important anyway to just test it to see what would work. Now, I'm already anticipating some criticism about someone saying, well, if you like this one better, why don't you just do this one? Why are you forcing it into this one? And the thing is that it's really this idea that I want a cohesive style. I want that even more than I just want to make a pretty picture. I want to make something that has a lot of strength to it, that it's well thought out. And I think if I was doing something like this and I spent, just years and years and years doing this, eventually I could get to a point more like this, but maintaining the coolness that I see in this. The problem is that I don't have that much time, or I don't want to spend years and years and years slowly developing, because I started this journey when I was, I guess 29 or 30, and I'm 31 now, so it's a case of like, okay, a lot of people who I see and admire, who are young and who are talented, I'm doing talented in air quotes, but they start out when they're like 15 and all they do is draw, or maybe even earlier, and all they did is draw, and eventually they naturally grew into a style. I don't have that luxury of time because I spent most of my time chasing realism and how to paint, and so I'm making up for lost time, and so I'm forcing myself in some ways to adapt, perhaps unnaturally, but the thing is, the more you do these things, eventually it does become natural. So some more figures and this guy, because too much points, I suppose, for the day. And here I'm trying different body types. So this was another issue. How do you draw fat and keep it and keep a lot of concaves? So again, experimenting. Did this work? No, that doesn't look right. And this, like, well, yeah, it's getting somewhere. It sort of looks fat, and you still got some concaves here. And then I felt this one is better. And then I have a character row for my graphic novel Affinity, which will probably be done in the next 10 years. But anyway, I have her, and I was thinking, like, okay, she is very curvy. There's a lot of curves, a lot of gentleness to both her design and her character. Can I take her and add these concaves and then maintain it? And so I did this one, and I found that actually I like this one even more, and it still feels like the character. It probably feels more like the character than this one, or even any other one, sketch of her that I had done before. So it became this thing of realizing, oh, finding this pointy thing and these concaves might just be because I was always supposed to have this style, but because I don't see things in my head, I have no reference point. I just have to guess my way through it. So I thought this was very successful and very encouraging that, oh, okay, I can do this and maintain what I want. The same thing here. More women who are large, and also some hands and feet. Like, okay, does it work on different forms? How does it work? Is this going to look really strange? Here it came out where the hands are sort of like claws, but I suppose I could change it so that they don't. But this was, again, an experiment. Same thing here. Take like this cute round shape and make it pointy, but try and keep some of that quality that you have, at least a likeness. So a lot of experimenting here. This one's kind of nice. This one, again, a lot of rounded shapes, so it's, I guess I'm testing myself now, like, how strong is this idea and how much work is it going to be? So here, I think it helped a lot. For me, I don't know if it's for you. So basically, if you like this style, it's going a lot more in that direction. So maybe this, because to me this looks cooler, and everything since I found the shape to me looks cooler. But if you hate this style, oh boy, you're going to hate it even more, because things are just going to get unnaturally pointed. So yeah, I thought this was cool because I wanted to do curly hair, but instead of using convex shapes, sort of like you think of a fluffy cloud, I did concave shapes. And does it hold up? Yep. And it sort of, in my eyes anyway, yep, it holds up and it maintains the style. It's not broken anymore. And because of this, the face and the bodies are starting to match, whereas before I had been talking over and over again about how the bodies and the heads sort of seem like they belong to two different worlds. Now this one's a bit off, or very off, because you've got this young face on this strange body. But this too is really important. This type of experimenting and failing, and in this case failing hard, it's something that, let's say I just wanted to impress people, I probably wouldn't show any of this stuff, and instead I would do this all in secret and then come out when everything's nice and shiny and polished, and then people would be like, wow, that's cool, or they would hate it because I hate pointy styles, okay, or my style in particular, but you wouldn't see it. But this too is important, and I would encourage people not to be afraid to fail and just try it anyway, because what's the worst that can happen? You did a drawing, it didn't come out right, but at least you learned something. At least you learned, hey, that's something I shouldn't do next time, or I should be careful of. So here's a few more kind of large but crickets, and I wanted to test the proportions. So normally the proportion I was using is from the top of the head to the crotch is equal to the crotch to the bottom of the feet, and I just wanted to push it a bit more, push that proportion. I'm not sure I stuck with it, but it was, again, an experiment. So, moving on. Okay, so here, what happened was I was drawing a cat, and I didn't think I succeeded here, so I wanted to redo it, and I did it here. And then I looked at this proportion, and it sort of reminded me of like an anime style because of this shape, I guess. And so I did this drawing based on this cat, but with somewhat of a humanish face, and just trying to get the proportions and the appeal. This is nonsense. And here's a cat in a suitcase. And now some more crickets with, again, fatter women, because this is the challenge, right? How to maintain the feeling of being fat but having concaves. And here's more. This person, I guess, was doing something. And this one's cool to me. I like the shapes of it. I like the gesture is pretty nice. Could be better, but I like the craziness in the hair. And if you've seen my stuff, you know I like crazy hair. And here's some more stuff. And here, I just did a guy not in a super pointy style, kind of pointy like I was doing before. And then I thought, okay, let's make it very convex and see what it looks like. So I got to this. And then I thought, these two do not look the same at all. Like, they look like completely different characters, so I need to make sure I get his likeness in this style. And so I did this attempt, which I probably would fix now, but it does have the style of this one, and it does have the likeness, or at least more of the likeness of this one. It came out a bit, I don't know. He looks a bit more like a monkey. Maybe it's because of the ear. It's too high, whereas this one's low, and this has such a small, or not that small, but kind of small jaw, and this one's a very big jaw. I think that's where I would change things. This idea isn't bad, to have this as one curve, but this shape is so different that what I would have done is pushed it like this more to the left to maintain that shape, because it's quite a, what would you call this, like a bob? I don't know. I guess on a girl it would be a bob. I'm not sure. But anyway, same thing here. This was awful. Wasn't feeling it. Maybe this was the first drawing. I don't know. Maybe this was the first one. But usually when I start drawing, it feels like nothing's working. And then this was revisiting this one, trying to get some shapes down, you know, some pointier shapes. I'm sorry if I keep saying pointy and if it's annoying. And sorry if I keep saying and sorry if I say so. And so I am sorry. This one I liked. And this I don't know what was going on. But I don't like it. And this one I guess I thought, okay, let's try drawing children in this style more, because this was kind of a child and I'd already done, here's, you know, like a dude. And okay, so trying some hairstyles. I don't know if I like many of these. I think this one's kind of nice. And this one, I like the attitude of the girl. I like this one. Don't like this one, because I feel like this is sort of, like you can tell I was using this, what is it? Pentagon shape. And I'm not sure it's working. You really lose the form. It's getting very flat. I'm not thinking about the roundness of the skull and how the hair would actually flow. I'm thinking more about, oh, okay, you got this shape, now fill it with stuff. And that's usually not a good idea when dealing with hair. Any more? Kind of like this one. And yeah, I guess those are the only ones I kind of like. And here, I wanted to do some eyes. So I think, again, it's seen. Well, okay, so you have this pointy style, but I noticed a lot of my eyes kept following more of this formula. And it was like, okay, how much variation can I get with this super concave style? And I realized a lot. This style is not nearly as limiting as I thought it was. These two are disasters. This is probably one of the biggest disasters I've drawn in a long time. The head is too, I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to study some hair, because as I showed in the previous one, I was doing hair on kids, but I was doing it from imagination, and I thought, I better look at reference. So this one is like Leonardo DiCaprio, I think, and I don't know the name of this model, and some more just reference. But again, looking at the reference and trying to do it in a concave style, so that every time I do something, it's in my style, to the point that I can't do something that's not in my style, and that's going to be a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because I'll have consistency and everyone will know a Sycra drawing when they see one. The bad thing is if someone says, hey, I want it in a more realistic style or a more round style, I might not be able to provide that. And it's also a case of, if people just don't like this style, they will really hate my work. But it's something I'm going to have to deal with. Okay, so here, again, these are from reference. And so I did the face and whatever from reference first, and then I did like a simplified little drawing beside. And that's to get the important thing. So there's a lot of strands in hair, right? But you've got to think about the big shapes, just the big few clumps of hair, the big few strands. So here too, it's more complicated, but it simplifies into something like this. I actually like the simple ones a lot better. I think my proportions were also better in the simple ones. Another one, and this one's kind of cool. I wanted to simplify this into sort of a design, like a graphic design shape. And this one too, it's a bit wonky in terms of the proportions, but it's better in the small view. And this one I like quite a bit. I like the, I don't know, there's like a bitchy attitude to it that I think is cool. So here is maybe not as good of a day, and this one is probably the worst one on the page in my opinion. The head is too long and the neck is not attaching nicely, but sadly this was from reference, so I wanted to do one a little more corrected. And I don't know how many of these are from reference now. This one's obviously not from reference. This one isn't. I don't think this one is, and some of these aren't by reference. So it's a combination now of trying to do things out of reference. Maybe I didn't spend enough time on the hair, so I'm going to revisit it later. But for now, that was my foray into hair. And what is this stuff? I don't know. I'm not liking these shapes. They're not appealing. I guess this was just a bad day. I don't see anything that I really like or want to comment on. And this one, I guess more craziness with hair. But then remembering that I didn't like hair necessarily to look realistic, so I thought, oh, what if I make it all weird? But I'm struggling with it. This guy, I think, is kind of nice. I like the attitude of this character. Seems tough, and yeah. This is sort of interesting, I guess. These triangle shapes, they don't make sense. Same with this hair, where it goes, woo, choo-da. This long mohawk, just pushing things. And more. So then it's always a case of like trying to figure out, okay, I'm doing this, but what am I missing? I've figured out this shape, so now what am I missing? Well, I'm missing time. I haven't practiced this. I'm missing the mileage. I'm also missing applying it to different figures. So then I do women, then I do men, then I do different body types, then I do children, a little bit of animals, try to do hair. Now it's like, okay, well, your forms are very flat. Why don't you try and apply this to a 3D shape? How does it work? Does it still read? And I don't think these are good examples. Later on, I'm actually going to correct this in a few episodes, but not yet. But this type of stuff I like. I feel this is much better. I'm getting a sense of where things will go. And let's see. I like this shape. I don't think it makes much sense, but regardless, I think, okay, that's something. And more trying to get, okay, so this is your character. This neck is super long, but the trapezius supports it. And then the deltoids being so large make it sort of manageable. When you want to create something really pushed, you can really do crazy things like huge necks or huge ears or huge whatever, but to make it consistent, it's always a pushing and pulling. So I made the shoulders really wide, but then I have to make this area really thin. Because if I made this really wide and I made this area also normal, matching this, very quickly this is going to fall apart and it's going to look like a tiny head on an oversized body. It's just going to look wrong. So maybe this looks wrong as well, but at least it's, to me, it's more cohesive. It doesn't bother me quite as much. Again, super long neck. I'm probably going to tame it down, but for now it's a case of it's not wrong to experiment. And let's see. Not sure if there's anything worth showing here. I don't really even remember what I was doing. Like random ear, some more crickets. Getting into some poses. And I tried to do like a walk and realized, wow, this is all very, very bad. I need work with gesture. I need work with poses. And so I think that's what I had in mind for the next day. So here I did like this kind of pose and I thought, that's boring. What if I push it more? And then I got this pose that's quite extreme, but still not really working. And then I did this drawing and I realized I am having a bit of trouble in this area with the scapula and how it connects to the deltoid. So it's like, yeah, okay. All right, try and figure it out. Whenever you find you have an issue, I really recommend just dealing with it. Make it something that, and I think here it's more accurate, but make it something that it's a goal. Like, instead of it being something that discourages you, make it a form of encouragement that, okay, this is something I need to improve on. Let me improve on it. And once I do, I may need to practice a lot, but once I get it, I'm going to have this tool and I'm going to become much stronger for it. And then the next time around, when something is very difficult, I can apply that same thought process and overcome that too, and overcome the next thing, and overcome the next thing. Let's see. Wonder who this is. I don't know why I was doing clothing, but I guess I was. And then I realized I hadn't done anything at all environmental for a very long time, like a scene. So I did this quickly just for a composition idea, just to see what it's like. And I don't think I really enjoyed it, but what I did realize is all this stuff that's working towards figures really makes environments easier to do. A lot of the principles are the same. When I'm dealing with the proportions of the face, for instance, you have to get very good at proportion. Well, a building is still in proportion. A tree is still in proportion. So getting better in this is going to totally carry over into anything else. So even with animals, like, okay, you can put it on top of an animal, and this was just random whatever. So clearly it's not good. But the point is more working on these things, working on the human body is not going to be a bad thing. I think it was, I don't know if it was J. Scott Campbell who I heard say this, but I remember when I was young, I used to have a magazine called Wizard, and it would have this art tip section, and I think it was in there. But anyway, someone had said the hardest thing to draw is the female figure and maybe the female face in terms of difficulty, and hands and feet, and then the male figure. And so if you can draw the female figure, then it's easier to draw the male figure. And if you can draw good hands and feet, then nothing else is as hard as that. So if you can master that, and I don't think I've mastered it, but if you can master it, then everything else is going to be a piece of cake. It's all going to be much easier. And I think there is some truth in that. So here, I was doing some posing and realizing, like, okay, this one, I'm trying to maintain a good silhouette, but it's very, I don't know, it seems weak. And so I did this one, and it's a bit stronger, but a bit weird. And then I thought this one, yeah, that's going somewhere. That's kind of working. I guess it's part of a scene with a tree, and the tree root comes like, that's a tree, and then there's grass, and the tree root comes all the way towards us. And then I was thinking about this question of, I also added some cross-hatching, so I guess I was doing some shading stuff here as well. But the question was, how do you make a circle in the Pointy style? And I came up with two solutions. One is this, where it's not really a circle. It's just like a, I don't know, what is that, a hexagon shape? But one is, don't make it a circle, and so that's one way of making it pointy. And the other way is just make it a circle, but make the internal shading pointy. So here it's without the points, and it's more just, I don't know, cross-hatching. And then here it's with points, and it's like, okay, I think this is the way to go. This is okay as well, but anyway, either of these solutions works. So then moving on here, I like this face. I like how it has form to it, and it goes back in space. Perhaps the expression is bland, but hey, it's something. This again, playing with shading and silhouettes and just, I don't know. I think I was looking at Joe Mad stuff for a while, and so that was probably infecting my brain. And this girl, I like the face anyway, and I like the hair. And it feels like there's wind, and I like this, how whatever this is that's coming off here, I don't know exactly what it is, but I like things to have a flow. to have like a consistent gesture in them and to feel some wind. So here too, I was sort of imagining like this shape going woo, 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 and goes around and stuff, and it spins, and just too pointy, I guess. But this guy looks funny. Reminds me of who's the smoking guy in Naruto? Asuma? I think Asuma, but reminds me of him. I could be wrong about his name. And then this page I liked. I thought this was decent. And this one I liked. Seemed cool. And this one I did first. And I realized this is really lame. This guy, he's just standing here, but there's no gesture to him. There's no... It just looks weak and stupid. And so this one is much better. There's like a clear gesture line. He's holding his sword, he's looking at it. Fine, it's one thing, it's cohesive, it works. Let's see. Some perspective. Just adding, adding this boxy thing adds some perspective, even if it's fake perspective, even if it doesn't make any sense. But it also reminds me like, oops, you need to work on your perspective because this is all messed up. And this one I liked. This guy with the claws. And I like this page too. So it's good that there are, it's closer between two good days and more different fatter people. And this monster dude, I guess I hadn't done much detail, so I just wanted to push it. And so I did this guy, and I did this like dragon-y thing. I made the eyes all dark, and I think it's pretty cool. And I did some cats, and just looking at life and seeing a cat, but it's probably better to look at a photo and really examine it, because cats move a lot, or at least don't stay still. And here's a space guy, and what else? This guy, kind of, I'm liking the body more. And you'll see even here, like the pointiness, the super pointiness is sort of going away, but the idea of it, the idea of the concaves remains. So this is why it's okay to push way too far in one direction. And if people tell you like, oh, don't go this way, you're going too far, you're taking it too far, I would say ignore them. Just go too far, take it to its natural end, and then push back. Because then you know the boundaries. You know how far you can go. You know how far you can push something. Here's a falling flour sack, and I wanted to give this one more energy, and some guy jumping, and what else do we have? This guy, whatever this is, I think it's cool, and I wanted to do a leaf and make the leaf concave and cool too, because really you should be able to do everything, right? This shouldn't be, oh, I can only draw figures and I can't draw anything else. Because I look at Joe Mad's work, and he's a big inspiration. Probably my two biggest inspirations are Kim Jung-gi and Joe Madureira. And it's because with Kim Jung-gi, he does everything, and he does it out of his mind, and it's just, I never get bored. I never get tired of his stuff, because he always surprises me, and he's constantly growing, and he's entertaining, and just amazing. And with Joe Mad, what I really get from it is that he has a very good style, but it's got a lot of fundamentals behind it. His perspective's really good. His gesture is really good. His shapes are always appealing. And he's got dynamics in line width. He's got, like, everything is really dynamic. Everything is really appealing. And it's down to the smallest detail. Like, if he has a character, and that character is holding a book, and you look at the pages of the book look cool, and it's like, those shapes are great. So it's something I want too. I want it so, same here, right? I did this girl and she's holding this cloth, and it's like, okay, that's obviously too stiff and it's not working. I have to work on the gesture, but it's like, okay, how do you make the cloth cool? And make the shapes cooler. And I think having this in mind is going to help me a lot, because then I won't be doing things randomly. It's like everything is going to have a purpose. Everything is going to be cool. Here too, I was thinking of like a soup can. But here I was thinking of shading. And remember I said with the circle that you can make it pointy two ways. One is the external form, and the other is the internal form, like the shading could be pointy. Well, I realized there's also two ways of doing the shading. I could do it this way, where the lines are like zigzaggy this way, because I'm using a pen, right? So I can't just create a smooth gradient. Or I could do it another way. I could do it the other way, like a, I don't know, almost like a razor wire. And it's going vertically instead of like, it's going, and so I looked at these two on different forms, and it's like, actually this works. I like it better, and it works. And so here it is on just a piece of paper, and I like this one. So good to experiment, and even though it's such a minor thing, it's good because it means, hey, if you're going to pay attention to the minor things, then the major things are probably going to be done really well as well. And here's some more little figures, crickets and stuff. And here's some more posing. So I guess my pen is running out. You can see, yeah, it's really running out, but it also lets you know which order I did the drawings in, because these ones are probably near the end. This one's got so many scribbles because I was probably angry at the pen running out of ink. So here I switched pens, and I think this is a pretty okay pose. I kind of like it. This one is going somewhere. This one, it's just getting better and it's more flowy, and it doesn't have to be as pointy, but it's still getting energy, which is good, because I'm all about energy and having good energy in your drawings. And this guy has 4 eyes, and then I did this guy, and I thought, oh, what would the rest of his body look like if he was a character, and I did this guy. I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. And more things. I like this one. He's kind of interesting. And some cats. More cats. I like cats because they're pointy anyway. Like, they have a lot of the qualities I like in my style just in their forms. And I noticed the same thing with predators. Like, the shape I was talking about, this concave, sharp shape, it's something you see repeated in the eyes of predators, wolves, tigers, lions, birds of prey, like eagles, hawks, falcons, their beaks. These shapes are repeated in certain forms. You'll also see these types of shapes, these fast shapes, repeated in aircraft, fighter jets. You'll see it in sports cars. Just these kinds of shapes that are fast, that are powerful, they have a lot of energy behind them. They're the ones that interest me, and it's why I never really liked brute force things. Like when I look at a tank, it's very boxy, and it's a brute force thing. Just, this is powerful, and it's coming towards you, and that's not what I really liked. Same with guns. I was never really into guns. What I preferred were things like swords. And I liked martial arts because there was always a grace and a flow to everything. That's not to say I don't appreciate, tanks for their strength. Yes, these things are powerful in the same way like a rhino is very powerful compared to like a lion. Well, the rhino could probably screw up the lion pretty bad. But it's a case of like, I prefer the agility. So something fast and agile with high dexterity. I guess if I was designing a video game character, it would be like a high dexterity character, more like a rogue or something, as opposed to just a lots of hit points, can take a lot of damage character. And here is, I think this is the last one, but just more crickets. So here, I was thinking, okay, so I've done this. Let me revisit some of the stuff I've already done, like the side view, but now I have the concave, and so it's like, try and get it so it works. And it wasn't working. There was something about the hips that I was trying to figure out that just didn't seem to work. and trying to get a cohesive thing, a flow to it, and it wasn't feeling good until about this point where it's like, something about the way I did the hips, and then it's like, you know what? This is kind of working. I'm doing something here and it's working. I also like this, the way I did this, breaking this into this shape. And so I think anyone can do these types of experiments if you just have enough time and you just keep pushing enough. You can find the shapes that work for you, and then you can do the shapes over and over again, and it becomes your style, and someone would look at it and, oh, that's a leg the way, Sycra or this person, that person draws it, but it doesn't come for free. So that's the important thing, is remember, you're going to have to put in the work to get it. And this one, it's okay, the gesture. And anything else, I don't know. This is still awkward, because you see the proportions are getting really bad. And here I was trying to think of the skeleton within. Now, obviously the skeleton's going to be misshapen, but you still should be able to fit a skeleton underneath, and it's probably something I'll revisit. And I like this character. And I was also doing this thing of, okay, so you have the figure, and she, in this case, she has a certain proportion, and I realized with the men what I was doing is I was squishing the chest, and I was making the torsos very elongated. So it's like, okay, try that. And then in a front view, I thought, okay, so with the breasts, they can actually be squished horizontally. That maybe sounds painful, but try not to think of it as the real thing, but rather the shapes can be pushed horizontally, and then the hips can be pushed horizontally, and then you get this long vertical for the torso that will create more appeal. And I hope that makes sense to someone other than myself. And here is this guy. And in the next episode, I get the Copic markers, and you've probably seen, if you've been watching my other videos, videos with markers in them. Well, this is when I get those, so that'll be in the next video. And until then, thanks for watching.